Welcome to church, everybody. What's up? Let's do this. Let's stand up, if you will. Find a few people that you didn't come with and say, I didn't know Scott was a BG. Can you do that? Come on, everybody. Good to see you guys. Hey, while we're just in a nice mood for a minute, there's got a lot of people watching online this morning, our online family. Let's just mention a few. The Robinsons in Canada, Debbie in Illinois, Stephanie and Josh, Indiana, Sheila and her mom in Kentucky, Tammy in Michigan, Cheryl, North Carolina, Melissa is in Washington, Beth in West Virginia, and Misty in Virginia right now. Give it up for everybody watching this morning. A lot of people. If you have your Bibles, I want you to open them up to the book of Ecclesiastes. Interesting book. A lot of people are surprised to find this kind of writing in the Bible. Welcome to what we're calling No Series November. That is our homage to No Shave November. Who's ever heard of No Shave November? What is it? It's for when guys don't shave for the entire month of November. Do you know it's more than a novelty? There's a reason for it. It's to draw awareness to men's health. Number one, prostate cancer and men's mental health. Did you know that? How many people did not know that there's a reason? They just thought guys just are lazy and don't want to shave all November. And it started not in the 1800s. It started between 2003 and 2009 in Australia. Fast forward all of these years later, and we do No Shave November. This is our homage to that. No Series November doesn't mean there's not an angle, there's not a theme. It's really this. I want us to draw awareness to our spiritual lives. If not, we can easily go down a mentally wrong road. Last week, what you take for granted, gratitude. This week, disappointments. Disappointments, and what you just saw before some of you get mad and go, I can't believe we're making fun of the mental meltdown of people. I can't believe that. How many people have been watching that? That's kind of our form of entertainment right now. I'm not going to say who it is, but my wife loves watching this stuff. Before you get mad and go, I can't believe we're making fun. Listen, this is where our society's gotten to, and it could easily have been the other way. We believe today politics is our religion. And we have some political savior that's going to take us to the promised land. So Scott, yes, he was a base in college, and now he's a BG today. He's like Benjamin Button, the movie Brad Pitt, old to young. Scott, look at his baby face. I mean, he was up there, man. That's pretty good. But it is amazing to watch meltdowns, watch people so disappointed. I can't get up and go to work today. And you're like, man, those people are crazy. But I've had at least 3 conversations with people in our church the last 5 weeks, and here's how the conversation went. Pastor, you got to pray. Trump's got to win, man. If Trump don't win, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to work the next day. I'm going to be such a basket case. My anxiety will be at all-time level. You're going to be the patriot. You're going to go buy all of that disposable food that you can keep that it's perishable for 50 years, and I'm going to buy a bunker in the mountains of North Carolina, and I'm in Whittlewood. I just got to... It's amazing to me to think about where we have landed, and disappointments of life are everywhere. And long before Toby Keith wrote the song Promised Land, which I love that song because he's like, listen, we have kind of believed this as a society, even as a Christian society. Well, if we love God, God's going to take us to the Promised Land. That Promised Land is whatever we want to get, whatever we think will bless our lives, whatever house or car, all the things that we want. I want a beautiful spouse. God, if you love me, you'll take me to the Promised Land. And Toby says, you know what, I'm finding out that the promised land is not a place, but it's a person. It's the person of Jesus Christ. He's my promised land. Well, long before Toby wrote that song, King Solomon wrote 3 books of the Bible. We know Proverbs he wrote. More than likely in his younger life, it's very honest, it's very raw, it's very optimistic. He wrote Song of Solomon. What an interesting Bible book that is. And then later in his life, he would write this book, Ecclesiastes. He was known as the wisest person to ever live. I'm sometimes blown away by that because the Bible says he had 1,000 wives. I have one wife, and sometimes my wife will tell me I'm the dumbest person to ever live. So with 1,000 wives, how could you be wise? But we know that he was brilliant. We know that he was King David's son. He had everything anybody would have ever wanted, ever. And yet he's going to come to the end of his life, in the book of Ecclesiastes is his journal, basically saying, I tried it all, been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, man. I did everything that the world told me to do. I wanted everything. I had everything at my fingertips, but I still can't seem to find what I'm looking for. So he's going to tell us what we know, that life is a vicious circle. I feel it, so do you. Searching, satisfaction for a moment, dissatisfaction, disappointment. That's the vicious circle of life. We search. We're satisfied for a moment. We're dissatisfied because what used to satisfy us don't do that no more, and then we get pretty much disappointed. I grew up in the 70s. I grew up with Saturday morning cartoons, Super Friends, Scooby-Doo. I grew up with the public service, remember commercials, remember the one, I'm just a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. I'm a law. Remember? But Saturday morning was our lifeline to the world. My parents would let me. They were, hey, it's Saturday morning. I'm like, Mama, I ain't doing nothing today. I ain't doing chores till after Super Friends and Scooby-Doo and Josie and the Pussycats and all the other weird things that we watched for that 4-hour time frame. And then they would have great commercials, right? And man, this is where I started to learn it. It's like, if you just have this toy, your life will be perfect. And I had a lot of toys. My parents were good, but I didn't have that toy. And I was in search of that. I was like, oh, Mom, if I just have that, everything will be great. Until the next week when they're like, no, you need this toy. Now, Wednesday night, I said something I shouldn't have said. It was really dumb. I stuck my foot in my mouth because I made this statement. Then we grow up and then we search for adult toys. I did not mean it that way. Older guy says, amen. I'm like, check please, the service is over. I didn't mean it that way. I meant we grow up and now as adults, we search for this other stuff that's doing it for us, right? Like, if I just have that car, that house, if I live in that house in that neighborhood, if I just had that spouse, not the one I got, but that one. That would do it for me, right? And we search. I'm weird, I get it. My dog has been teaching me a lot of lessons lately. I want to introduce you to him if you don't know him. I had a recent picture of my dog, Cash. He's crazy, man. He's a Chiweenie. He's nuts. He's certifiably nuts. We think he's 10 years old. We don't know. We rescued him when he was 1.5 years. We think he was 1.5 years. The jury's out. I don't know if we should have rescued him or not, but we did. So now Cash hit the lottery. He rules the house. This dog is crazy, but I love him. Man, I love this dog. He aggravates me, gets on my nerves, but I love it. Some of you know that we, years ago, put a Bluetooth collar on it. It's a shock collar. Hadn't shocked him in years and years and years, except the one time where it got on level 18. I didn't know it was that high. I hit the wrong button. I was trying to hit the tone button, but I hit the shock button. He jumped up 9 feet, saw Jesus, and he's saved today. It's amazing what happened. I mean, it's just crazy. So I don't ever really shock him, but I hit the tone button. It's a 600-yard radius. He runs in the neighborhood. He owns the neighborhood. And I hit the button. He comes back. But lately, he's been doing something the last 6 months that fascinates me. I let him outside. He scratches on the door. I put his collar on him. And he goes out. And he begins this search. And I can watch him. He doesn't go far. He searches. He beelines for places. Like he's looking, like he dug a treasure. And he's looking for gold. I mean, he goes over here. He stops. I watch out the window. My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm watching Cash. She's like, you're crazy. I'm like, it's better than the news. So he'll stop for a minute. Look around. Get down. And he'll do this for like 15 minutes. I'm riveted by it. Look, what are you looking for? I don't even have to hit the tone button. 15 minutes goes by, it dawns on him. I can't find what I'm looking for. Comes back inside, stares at me. I've trained him. He goes outside, he does his thing, he comes in, I give him a treat. He's like, I couldn't find it outside, Dad, but you're going to give it to me. I mean, I give that dog, trust me, he is a king. He's King Solomon's dog. He's like sirloin. Where's the filet? I mean, I give him a treat. He's like, and I think to myself, I talk to the dog. I'm like, Cash, why are you searching for stuff outside? You know who's going to give you what you need. And then I thought, oh no, that's me and God. You and I search. We're satisfied for a moment. You know that's true. We get really dissatisfied really quickly, and then it turns into disappointment. And if you don't get anything out of the message, get this. Why do I do what I do, and what do I need to say that really matters is this. God created you with a hole in your soul. You're like, well, why did he do that? He did it on purpose. He created you this way to seek him, to search for him, to worship him. And when you fill that hole in your soul with God, everything changes. But if you substitute anything and everything but God, you will search and you will find yourself highly disappointed. The promised land is not a place, it's a person. It's eternal things that matter. And King Solomon, a long time ago, whose own dad on his deathbed, David said to Solomon, Solomon, do not jack your life up, man. Seek God and follow his will. Solomon was mentored by the prophet Nathan. And yet Solomon would go through his whole life and he would come to the end with a lot of regret. And so 11 and a half of the 12 chapters of the book of Ecclesiastes, you read an old man's journal basically telling you you'll search and you'll find disappointment if you don't seek God first. So I want to read it. I want to talk about the word disappointment. I want to give us some ammunition. I want you to think about a few things. Ecclesiastes, again, non-believers, believers, people go to this book. This is a huge book. I mean, hey, it was in the movie Footloose, so there's got to be something to it, right? Oh, come on. Anyway, people, they struggle. They think, man, I can't believe there's this type of writing in this book because most of it is very pessimistic. But really, Ecclesiastes exposes our total incapacity to find meaning and completion in our lives on our own. Here's what it says, starting in chapter 1 of verses 1 through 11. I'm going to read it in the New Living Translation. I want you to listen to his words, and I want to just unpack a few things. These are the words of the teacher, King David's son. We know this is Solomon, who ruled in Jerusalem. We know this, right? But boy, this is really real. The older you get, sometimes it really hits home. Everything is meaningless. Completely meaningless. What do people get for all their hard work under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth never changes. The sun rises and the sun sets, then hurries around to rise again. The wind blows south and then it turns north. Around and round it goes, blowing in circles. Rivers run into the sea, but the sea is never full. Then the waters return again to the rivers and flows out again to the sea. Everything is wearisome beyond description. No matter how much we see, this is truth. Ready? No matter how much we see, we are never satisfied. And no matter how much we hear, we are never content. History merely repeats itself. It's all been done before. Isn't that the truth? Nothing under the sun is truly new. Some people say, oh, here's something new. But actually, it's old. Nothing is ever truly new. We don't remember what happened in the past and in future generations. How depressing is this? Ready? No one will remember what we're doing now. So Solomon in modern day terms is say, man, life's all smoke and mirrors. You can almost hear it, right? You can hear the disappointment in his words. So here's my point today. It'll come on the screen. It's important that we learn how to handle the disappointments of life. It's a fact of life. It's a part of life. So we will not become disappointed with life. They'll bring a picture back on the screen of the political map. This is how it all ended up, this political season, and this is the real reason I'm talking about disappointments, because you can almost break it down, right, by regions of our country. Red states were happy and the blue states were blue. It is amazing to think about people today and what we look to and who we turn to and what drives us. And if we don't watch it, you felt it in those people. It's a real thing. It's a real phenomenon. People walked out of the first service and they're like, Brent, I know what you watched on that video. And people, there were 6 ladies last night from Illinois. The blue among the red, right? And they're like, Brent, you have no idea what you just watched. We see it every single day, everywhere in the state of Illinois. People are melting down. It's crazy, right? Disappointments. We're disappointed in everything. Last night, we had optimism for a few minutes. And then we were disappointed because Georgia turned into Georgia and we turned into Tennessee in the second half. We don't even want to talk about that, do we? Disappointments. Cooper, would you stand up? Where's Cooper? Where's our boy Cooper? Cooper, stand up. This is Cooper Newman, everybody, the quarterback of the Sevier County Football Bears. Thanks to Cooper, there's a lot of people in Powell this morning really disappointed. You can sit down, Cooper, but we love you because that was awesome. Did anybody see the Sevier County game? You lose and go home, down 14 with 2 minutes to go. The old Sevier County Smoky Bears won. You could feel it on the sideline. Powell's like, we got this. Were they talking trash? You know they were talking trash. Hey, we're talking trash at the end. Cooper's like, can you pick up that trash before y'all leave and get back on the bus and head to the house? It's crazy, right? Disappointments are everywhere. We get disappointed with everything in life. We grow up. Again, I've had a few new cars in my life. You know, you buy the used cars, then you get a little middle age and you're like, honey, I'm going to buy me a new truck. Buy me that new pickup. I'm like, if that new F-150 is going to do it for me, it's going to change my life. Everything's going to be amazing. You get it? And I'm that weirdo on the way home from the dealer. I'm like, what's that sound? Why is it making that noise? Giovanna's like, it's a truck. It's going to make noise. Why is it driving like this? I feel a little shimmy. What's up? What do you think? You're going to float on a cloud? I mean, it's a truck. That house we built. Oh, we should have built bigger. Why did I paint the bathroom that lame color yellow? That spouse after the honeymoon, you're like, does she have to snore? I can't believe it. I thought she was perfect. I'm like, I have to hold my nose when I eat her cooking. What is up? I'm so... You look around. I mean, everywhere you look, right? I'm going to bring it this way. I preach it. I live it. I'm in search of it. It'll come on the screen this way. Everywhere you look, there's a big gap between what ought to be and what is. And that gap is disappointment. You know I'm right. Expectations versus reality, that happens everywhere in life. It's all of our lives. I thought it would be this. Case in point, the best illustration I'll give you, if you own this, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to make fun of you, but yes, I do. If you leave here and you go down to Veterans Boulevard and you take a left, you go past Dollywood for a while, you pass the mountain coaster on the right, you're going to come to the Caboose. The overnight rental. You know that couple in Wisconsin is looking at this VRBO website. This is the picture if you pull up VRBO. This is the first picture you see. You know that couple in Wisconsin who loves trains. They're like, oh, honey, look at this. It's in the woods. It has a fireplace. We're going to be all by ourselves. I can walk out naked on the back of the caboose. Only when you get there. You can't light a fire at that fire pit. You'll die of carbon monoxide because you're 4 feet away from a 5-lane road. Who's seen that? And you're like, who would stay there? But yet people from Wisconsin, it's only $200 a night. Look at that. That is what I'm talking about. Expectations versus reality. That's life for most of us. You think of the stuff that we try to run to that creates disappointment, where it's a political leader, it's a vacation. I mean, all of us have been there. Oh, look at that. That perfect angle on VRBO, and you get there and you're like, what is happening here? I remember one time my family that's in the room, and this is the one time I lost $300 a night because we took a trip years ago as a family to California, and I was wanting to stay near the beach, and we were passing through, and we got a hotel. I think it was a Super 8 or hotel, and I'm like, this looks good. The pictures are amazing. We went in there. There was a murder chalk outline in our bathroom. It's like Giovanna's crying. Miranda's like, I will not stay here. This is unsafe. And I went down and I said, listen, my family is having a meltdown because of the disappointment of this room. Can I have my money back? And they're like, no. And so I'm like, guys, we can't stay here. So we had to pay another $300 to give them $300 and pay $300 because my wife didn't want to stay where somebody was murdered the night before. Anybody ever felt the sting of disappointment? Stuff, it just doesn't do it for me. But what happens, and this is where it gets serious. What about when life is unfair? I mean, forget the stuff. We can make fun of the stuff. We all agree, we chase. But what happens when your family's falling apart? And you're trying your best to put your family back together, but it's not working out. And you feel like, wait a minute, I don't understand why. And as Christians, sometimes we're like, well, God, man, I love you and I want you in my life, so everything should be great. Well, Solomon in his wisdom, it's pretty interesting what he's going to say. Fast forward a couple of chapters to chapter 9, verses 11 and 12. Listen to what he says. This is like universally true. I have observed something else under the sun, Solomon would say. The fastest runner does not always win the race. The strongest warrior does not always win the battle. The wise sometimes go hungry. The skillful are not necessarily wealthy, and those who are educated don't always lead successful lives. Boy, is that true. It's all, and listen to what he says. This is Forrest Gump moment. It's all been decided by chance. Is it all about just being at the right place at the right time? And then it gets hard. This is what he says, and this is life. How do we deal with disappointments? People can never predict when hard times might come. Like fish in a net and birds in a trap, people are caught by sudden tragedy. The older you get, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but welcome to disappointment. How do we deal with disappointment? What do we need to deal with? Some of us are in denial. That's not just a river in Egypt. Thank you, I'll be here all week. Write this down. How do we deal with the pain of disappointment? Some of us choose to deny the pain. We choose to deny it. Some of us don't understand that one out of one of us are going to die, that we're all going to be dealing with disappointments in life. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race. How many times have we watched the Olympics? This person was projected to win 78 gold medals, and they get to the first race and they tweak their ankle around turn 3 of the first race, and it's over. The strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. Many of us think, well, if I just do this, this, and this, then my life will be okay, and I'll live to be 1,000. Case in point, a friend of mine who passed away, I still can't believe he passed away. It's surreal to me that I would do his funeral 3 years ago now. Greg Snoddy. Some of you remember Greg Snoddy, a part of our church. He was 53 years old when he died. That would have made me 51. He was a friend that I loved. I loved to play golf with Greg. Greg died on the 11th tee box at the Virginian Golf Club during the member game of May 2021. They said before his knees hit the ground on the 11th tee box, before he teed off that beautiful spring day, he was dead. Massive heart attack. It caught me by such shock. I mean, he was there. It was Saturday, the Wednesday before. He was in the green room coming in to encourage the band, encourage me. He called me preach. We were friends. He was here Wednesday, Saturday. His brother-in-law, Joey, called me and said, Brent, man, we lost Greg today. What? It hit me way too close. So I just started to deny. I'm like, well, that I don't know if that would ever happen to me. I mean, Greg, he did have some health issues, and he didn't take care of himself, and I made fun of him about that, and I'm like, I felt so bad for making fun, and you're like, what do you mean? Well, he was a diabetic. He had an insulin pump. And I would play golf with him a lot, and we would make the turn from hole 9 to 10, and that's where you have a snack bar, and you get a little bit of food in between the front 9 and the back 9, and he would always roll into the snack bar and order 2 Coca-Colas and 2 Snickers bars. And I'm like, Greg, you're a diabetic, man. What are you doing? He goes, that's okay, preach. The pump is flowing. He died, and I'm thinking, man, Greg, you shouldn't have ate that Snickers bar, man. I think of his wife today, and she was a dear friend. They loved the church, and how he was like everything to their family. And having to deal with life's disappointment, and sometimes we can deny that would ever happen to us. But what about the person that's driving down the road, minding their own business, doing the speed limit, and the drunk driver veers across the lane, kills the person in the car and the family in the back seat, and then we're like, man, God, where are you? It's so easy to get disappointed in life. What about the phone call you get from the doctor? You're like, hey, you need to come in. The people that I know that because of family history and heredity, they get some disease or something's going on in their life, and they had no idea about it, but since they were born, they would have had that issue, and there's just nothing they could have done. No amount of kale they could have eaten. I think of my uncle, who was such a cherished person to me. Uncle Horace, he died when he was 67 years old. He was the department head of religion at Pfeiffer College in North Carolina, and he was a character, and I loved him, and he was such a lover of Jesus. And years before, he had a heart issue, and he had a quadruple bypass heart surgery. And so for the next 7 years, he would eat nothing but kale and drink water and walk 8 miles a day. And yet on the YMCA in Albemarle, North Carolina one day, he's lifting weights, trying to keep everything healthy. And they said, once his knees hit the ground, he was dead. Nothing he could have done. My aunt was so upset. She looked at his cardiac doctor and said, Uncle Horace did everything right. He walked everywhere. He ate everywhere for 7 years. How could this have happened? And the cardiac physician simply said, you realize your heart has so many beats. And when it's your time, it's your time. We don't think of that in our chase, in our search for satisfaction, stuff that's here today and gone tomorrow, that we literally buy in hook, line, and sinker that some political leader is going to take us to the promised land. If you've been around a lot, elections kind of come and they go. And the people that are melting down today, that the world is over, democracy as we know it is gone. Why? Because we showed democracy and people voted. They're going to eat a lot of crow in a few years. But it easily could have been us. If our candidate didn't win, there would have been a lot of us. Last week in particular, like, I don't think I can sit here, Brent, and talk about gratitude. Well, Solomon, a long time ago, would say, hey, be careful of the search. I've had it all, and you will not find what you're looking for apart from God. You're like, I know that, Brent. No, we don't know that. No, we don't. We chase. We're satisfied for a moment. Then disappointment hits. We choose to deny the pain. I don't see a lot of people happy today, even though our Declaration of Independence promises us right life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. It only says pursuit. Look around. Anybody joyful? People say, well, you know what? I'm going to follow the Bible's motto. Don't worry, be happy. That's what the Bible says after all, Brent. No, it really doesn't say that. It doesn't tell you to deny your disappointments. The Apostle Paul, Philippians 4:11 through 13. I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. Not to deny it, but to be content. What I'm going through, I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. What's that mean? Whether things are good or things are bad, I can do all things through Jesus Christ who gives me strength. Other people try to ease the pain, drown it in pleasurable activities. That's where most of us are today. Life is hard. I deserve a little relief. Whatever I can do to escape reality for just a minute, that it leads to addictive thinking, and that doesn't work really well. Some of you have family and friends to know, wow, what a heartache and what a disappointment they turned out to be. As a society, here's where we all live. Others blame the pain on someone else. It's your fault. I get it. I know what I do for a living. I know I stand as a lightning rod. It's your fault, preacher. Today I think of children, adult children that are detaching from families. It's a new phenomenon that adult children, for whatever reason, are completely uncoupling, detaching, walking away from families, want nothing to do with their family as if families are perfect. And I know some of us struggle, but the idea of blaming somebody else, why he pinned my diaper on too tight, my mama painted my nursery a lame color yellow, it's their fault for everything that happens in my life. We love to blame somebody else, to watch political back and forth of blaming people. I can't believe you're awful. Why would America do that? It's absolutely human nature 101 on display. It's easy to blame somebody else, but mostly it's easy to blame God when everything is not perfect. I thought you were taking me to the promised land, God. When all the while he's like, Solomon's going to say it. He's going to say it in Ecclesiastes. Keep your eye on eternal things. At the end of the book, in chapter 12, the key verse is, I think, verse 13 or verse 15. It's one of them. You can read it when you get home. After everything that you've heard, what do you need to do? You need to trust God and obey His commandments. That's what you got to do. That's the secret to life. I promise you, you will never find what you're looking for, especially if you blame somebody else. This happened to me Tuesday. I had to go to Waggles. I know people pronounce it Waggles, but that just doesn't make sense to me. We live in East Tennessee. It's Waggles. Waggles sound like, let's go to Waggles. Let's get some Grey Poupon at Waggles. This sounds a little weird to me. Waggles. My truck was on empty. I went inside. I wanted to buy me an Arnold Palmer. My wife won't buy that for me at home. I have to drink water. She abuses me, y'all. You need to let her know that. So I buy Arnold Palmer. You know, you can buy Arnold Palmer in the can at Waggles. It's 32 ounces. It's a little weird because I'm standing in line with a big can in my hand, and I have to show people, hey, it's Arnold Palmer. They're like, what's the preacher buying in there? What kind of tall boy? It's sweet tea and lemonade. I go in there with 37 other construction workers that are buying slices of pizza. Their pizza is good. I give them that. And I stand in line as people are buying their beer and their cigarettes and their lotto tickets with my Arnold Palmer. But before I did that, as I walked in the door, I saw a lady that left our church 8 years ago. Their children were little when they left. Their children are bigger. She was standing there with her son. As I walked in the door, I could sense that she did not see me. She was laughing with her son. They were having a good giggle, waiting in line with all the construction workers. And so I decided, I'm just going to be me. I saw them. They were a part of our church for years. I was going to walk up on them, and I put my hand out. I was going to shake them. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you. And it startled her, I think, because she wasn't paying attention. By the time she saw me, I was like 5 feet away from her. And then she turned from this jovial laughing with her son, to it was a facial expression that changed, like she went from loving everyone to staring at Satan. It's been a long time since I've seen that facial. I stuck my hand out to shake her hand. She put her head down. She never made a sound. She never said hello. I said hello. I walked away. I stood in line weeping as I bought my Arnold Palmer. Got home, my wife will tell you I was pretty upset about it. I was frazzled. It's hard. I don't understand. I kind of feel like I'm me, but I know how it is. Somebody gets mad, disgruntled, they leave the church. Who do they blame? The preacher. We all have felt that in our own world, business, school, somebody else's fault. It's easy to blame somebody else. The whole moral of that story is a couple of months after they left our church, they got a divorce. So it really wasn't me, it wasn't the church. There was something going on in life, but 8 years has come and gone, and I could see in her face, she's still blaming somebody or something for the disappointments of life. And you could feel just in that moment, without a word being said, that, man, I am stuck in that moment, and I will never let that go. There is a better way. Many of us have been there before we pick on the mental meltdowns on the video and we pick on the lady at Waggles. There's a better way. Allow the disappointment in our lives to drive us to the source of comfort. 2 Corinthians says this, pretty interesting that we need to hear this in this day and age. All praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. He is our merciful Father. He is the source of our comfort. He comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can do what? We can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort God has given to us. For the more we suffer for Christ, the more God will shower us with His comfort through Christ. Hebrews, the book of Hebrews in the New Testament was written to a bunch of very disappointed people. Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, I really believe this verse kind of tackles that disappointment. Therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out before each of us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. But hey, Solomon said that a lot of years before. You can search, or you can say, God, I trust you. I look to you. When we trust God and we understand He is our source of comfort, we can help other people in our lives that seem to be so disappointed, that they're disappointed with the things of life, they get disappointed in life. We can show them, hey, there's a different and there's a better way. Just remember that in a world where we have seen disappointment all around us. Many of us were on pins and needles. If our candidate didn't win, ooh, I would be so disappointed. And how are we veering our blame? Hey, I was veering it on. I said it. I'll go ahead. I'll fess up, man. I can't believe it. If we vote the wrong way, this will show me that America is just lost. It's irrecoverable. People have lost their common sense. Who's with me? Come on, let's see some hands. Let's be honest. Let's go. And I think Solomon's like, listen, nothing new under the sun. Stuff's going to come and go. The only thing that will last, right? God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Keep your eyes on eternal things. It changes everything. If you want to really deal with disappointment the right way. God, be with us as we get ready to walk out the door today. Be in this moment. If you'll do me a favor, church, would you stand up with your heads bowed and your eyes closed? I want to give you a moment to come forward if you need to. I know some of you are going through some disappointments in life. Some of you right now, you have family members and friends that are disappointed with whatever, and your heart hurts for them. You just long to hug them and just give them direction. Maybe this is a time where God can use you to show that comfort that we have. We give because God gives, and maybe God can put you in the right situation to go, hey, there's a better way. Allow the disappointments of life to drive us toward the source of comfort. And ultimately, that's all about trusting you, God. You're a friend that sticks closer to us than a brother. Eternal things matter the most. It's not the temporary things in life, but the things that matter. And God, that's you and our relationship with you, and you love us, and you've redeemed us. You tell us to cast our anxiety on you because you care for us, so we're going to do that. With your heads bowed and eyes closed, if you need to come forward, as Scott just closes with that song, we go back into trusting God, and you need to bring a need, a disappointment, bring it down and say, God, I need you right now. If there's a need for somebody else, you're like, Brent, I want to put myself on the fire line. I'm going to be praying for somebody else in my life that is struggling with disappointment. God, give me the words to say, the right tone to say it. Use me to allow them to see the source of comfort, which is you. Man, we need this message more than ever. Wow, do we need to be here? That hole in our soul that can only be filled with you. Allow us to be smart enough to lock in on you today. It's not the hearing of your word, it's the doing of it that makes it real. So God, we give you this moment.